All right, guys, it's time for a new list. Let's start things off with this one with the blip at shoe fall. I day.
I like that one.
These are the top 15 best movies of 2019. Hey guys, welcome to the top 10, no, 15 best movies of 2019, and I have Alex and OtherJoe here with me. But the format we kind of settled on was we're going to have one official list, the AngryJoe Show list, and then at the end you will get a treat. Alex has his own list and Joe has his own list, and you will be able to see where those rank, much the same films that's on the main list, and if there's different films, they could talk a little blurb about each of those. So this video is brought to you by our wonderful Patreons and our YouTube join buttons. It's an extra video, extra content. Please consider supporting our show if you like extra content like this that's available free for everybody. So directly supporting our show allows us to do these. So thank you very much, and let's just jump right into the list. And these are definitely the films that if you haven't seen yet, you need to go out and see immediately. The best films of 2019. Number 15. So number 15, we start with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. While this one doesn't have a ton of action, it doesn't have, explosions everywhere and things, it does have a flamethrower.
And a lot of feet.
It's so cool.
And a lot of feet, because obviously this is Quentin Tarantino's film. I think it's his 9th or 10th. I don't know what number we're on, but it was enjoyable. It was definitely a slow burn at first, but then it sort of culminates into a extremely crazy and climactic final act
with a
where
twist.
the killers are actually in the house, because this is based on a real story. This is based on
The Sharon Tate murder.
The Sharon Tate murders, yeah. And no, it's not The Haunting of Sharon Tate, which might be on another list that we have coming. But this is it done correctly. What did you guys think?
I thought it was pretty good. Honestly, Brad Pitt kind of stole the whole movie, which he got the Oscar for, which was kind of cool to see.
Actor. Almost overshadowed DiCaprio.
And he did amazing too. Like, I think that there were parts of this movie that were like genius, and then there were some really slow parts that I didn't quite appreciate, and then there was like this red herring section of the movie which I didn't quite appreciate, but it was still so well done that I think that movie ends up being like just gets barely knocked off my list, but it was really good, and as we're saying, I think so.
Well, mine's up higher than you guys. I love the chemistry between them, and I wanted to see more of them.
Yeah, fantastic chemistry. It's always fascinating to watch when two actors are just really killing it. The only problems I have, it's like I really love Bruce Lee, so if you really love Bruce Lee, he's not depicted very well here. He's
it's kind a short
kind of a fucking asshole. But I think it's more done in jest and more done, for the fun of it. I don't really think that they're saying Bruce Lee was a fucking, cocky asshole, which I guess at certain times he was, but not really, when he's challenged. But anyway, so that is number 15, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Number 14. This one's going to be a bit controversial because I have it lower on my list, and this film won Best Film of 2019. Ooh. That's right. It is Parasite. So Parasite is a Korean film, and it won not only Best International Film, it won Best Picture. It won everything, man. He was going up there.
He was making the Oscars
director.
kiss.
Yeah.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, he was making him kiss. It was great.
I didn't see that. The guy seems so awesome. Someone you just want to go out and have fun with and hang out with. His previous films, this is the same director that did Snowpiercer.
Yeah, which is the
Chris
sequel
Evans.
to Charlie and Chocolate Factory. Did you see,
No,
did you see that yet?
that's
No.
in the whatever. But anyways, this film was basically so well. I don't know why I didn't like it more. because I could tell that it was well directed, well acted. The actors, my God, this ensemble cast, you're engaged. Every single person is super fascinating. You cannot peel your eyes off the screen. The music was fantastic. The cinematography was great. It has fantastic atmosphere, and it has something to say. It's a little bit about classism. It's a little bit about, the have-nots and the have-lots, and how these two families sort of clash, and and then it's just all laid out in a shocking climactic third act that I could tell on all levels was an amazing film. But I don't know, I just didn't like it as
There's
much
nothing wrong with
as
that. If it
I
didn't,
can't really pinpoint it either.
Well,
I
Pete,
respect it.
Look, you're putting it on your top 15
Yes,
list out of
yes,
thousands
it
of
is
movies.
definitely.
That's still one of those you have to watch.
And then, like, some
Yes.
movies resonate higher than with, and then there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. What did you guys think?
Oh,
Did you end up seeing it?
Yeah,
And
I
it's pretty
ended up
high on
seeing
my
it.
list.
Okay.
Yeah, same with me. It's pretty high up. I like the dark comedy. This family had me engaged the entire time.
Yeah.
So.
It was super tense. There were times where I'm just like sitting there going, like, what the hell is going to happen? This is a
What?
ridiculous situation. So I really liked it, and I think it, I don't know if it was the best picture that came out last year, but it was really damn good. So
Yeah.
it's worth seeing.
And it might have been, the environment that I was seeing it in and the people I was seeing it with, and it just didn't click
Should've saw
initially.
with us.
But I will
Yeah.
tell, I probably would have been higher, but I will tell you, I kept thinking about it. And this is one on my list that I think about a lot, and so that to me is a mark of a good film. So I had to put it somewhere on the list because it deserves it. So number 14, Parasite. Number 13.
What is it?
You got to. It's on your list.
It's on your
You
list.
got to do it.
Stevie Z Broly. Putting Broly over Parasite.
Hey, it's on your list.
All right, guys. So obviously there's going to be controversy because I'm putting Dragon Ball Z Broly over.
Well, that's not even on my list.
Not on my list.
Hey,
you guys liked it more than I did.
Hey, this is the Angry Joe show.
Yeah, it's fine.
This is my list. You guys will have your list
Yes.
after my list. Here's the thing, is that I was fucking loving every moment. I just remember just the way I was in that seat like a fucking little kid, just as engaged as I was in Parasite. And yes, in my opinion, Parasite is probably better directed, better acted, better film, better everything. But you know what?
You liked
I
it, yeah.
fucking liked it more. All right? I'm a big Dragon Ball Z
Fight me.
fan.
No, don't
And
fight
you
me.
would think that after all these years and all this time that I would be sick and tired of,
For an hour and a
power
half.
levels and an hour and a half of people screaming at each other. But you know what? It's my kind of film. I fucking loved it. The
It was
music
good.
was great, and it was good, and it didn't disappoint me. And so because that, I'm grading it on a curve, and I really did enjoy DBZ Broly, and I actually like the redesign of Broly so much, and the way that they gave him supporting characters and kind of made him like a second Goku. I felt like they were trying to set up like a new branch of the anime where we could follow Broly and his friends instead of just Goku all the time. Gohan at one point was tried to push to the front. People were like, "I don't want Gohan. We want Goku." And then like, okay, fine. And then bring back Goku. So I think it's cool that, Broly is now, instead of just one of the most boring villains, but the coolest one that everybody loved the most, with the action figures and the power levels and the legendary Super Saiyan. But granted, he was not a very complex villain, and and he was just like one off and we're done. And then Bio Broly was even worse, right? But this Broly, they actually added a lot of character depth to him, and he's not necessarily, pure evil or anything like that. And I like that aspect. So it seemed like Dragon Ball Z had learned from other series, and then it's growing, and it's one of the better films that I saw in 2019 in theaters, and I really enjoyed it.
I thought it was okay.
Mm-hmm.
I remember seeing it with you. I liked that they did add some depth to him. They kind of felt like they were building him up as like Doomsday to Goku's Superman, where he's evolving and getting he's on this real harsh planet and all those things. But I only kind of liked it. I didn't love it.
That's
so.
fair. That's fair.
I thought it was a good film. I want them to make a part 2, just featuring just Broly, more obviously Broly.
Yeah.
But it didn't make my list.
All right, well, I'm happy because I want our list to be different.
Yeah.
So, number
think they
13,
will be.
DBZ Broly, engaged the whole time, was fucking kick-ass. If you love Dragon Ball Z, if you love high power levels and kung fu and animated films, check it out.
All good stuff.
Number 12. I don't really start to get serious until I get to the top 10, but I had to find a way to put this on because this film made me laugh more than any other film in 2019, and that is the film Stuber. Yes,
Okay.
I know. I know many people hated the film and hated its comedy. Critics hated it, said it wasn't funny. I fucking loved it. I thought that, Dave Bautista can do comedy, and he's got great comedic timing. People thought, oh, he could just do Drax. No, he's actually pretty funny and really good in this film. And the comedian, what's his name?
Kumail Nanjiani.
Kumail. Oh my God, I fucking love his comedy, his brand of comedy. Yes, I can understand how some people are like, I don't like the guy. He's not funny to me. But to me, he's fucking hilarious. I just like the way he looks at the world and what he says in the observational type of comedy that he does. And Stuber is one of those films that it gets so crazy. They go on this adventure on an Uber ride, and it just gets crazier and crazier and crazier, and there's guns and machine guns and explosions and shit. It's awesome.
Yeah, I actually, I'm not super surprised because I love this movie too.
Yeah.
It didn't make my list, but it probably was one of the funnier movies that I saw last year. It knew exactly what it was. It had fun with it.
Sleeper.
And so it knows it's ridiculous. It has fun with it. So that's
it.
That's the problem with some of these other like the action comedy movies is they try to take themselves too serious.
seriously.
And when you have a serious tone, you look at a scene, it's like this is stupid as fuck. This movie knew it was stupid
as
and
fuck.
had so much fun, and it made me have fun.
Yeah, I had a great time. Like even walking out, I was like, man, that was good.
Yeah, it was good.
It's
Right.
very
We all were
enjoyable.
high on that
Yeah.
film when we came out. I'm surprised it's not on your list. I actually think, guys, it's the best comedy of the year. See, I think you're forgetting. It actually is the best comedy of
that brand for
Yeah.
sure.
Of all the ones that we went to see, I have never seen you laugh so much, and of course Joe is having a great time. So Stuber, guys, if you haven't seen it, go and see it. See if it makes you laugh. It is a specific type of comedy, but if it's your comedy, you will be laughing your ass off. That's it. Stuber. Number 11. Next on the list is another film that comes out of nowhere. It's a Netflix film. It's called Shadow.
Oh, yeah, Alec Baldwin.
No,
The Shadow
no,
Nose.
The Shadow
not
Nose.
Shadow, and not the South African one. This is a Chinese. It's a 2008 Chinese period film, but it was released here in the States on Netflix in 2019, so that's why I put it on the list. This was directed by Zhang Yimou. Sorry I butchered your name, but he did things like Hero.
That was good.
And he has this amazing visual style. Now, I will admit, and the reason why it's a little lower on the list, because it could get higher, is the first act is a very, very slow burn. And when I mean slow burn, I mean this is a level beyond slow burn.
So it's like
Damn.
boring
burn.
Boring.
Yeah.
All
You're
right.
like, all right, I'm about to fall
Now,
asleep.
I'm about to switch it, but then if you stick with it, because in
Okay.
the second and third acts, that's when you start to get the battles, because they're basically setting up the world. They show you this king who's kind of an incompetent king, and he's questioning one of his generals, and this general is one of his best generals, and he vows to take over a city, and they need to take over this city, but this general is actually posing as the original general that was wounded in battle. And so that's why it's called Shadow, because you have these two figures who one is acting like the other, and then he starts to go off and do his own things, and the other one's like, and then it get like lots of intrigue there, right? And there's betrayal, there's a little bit of a love story, which I thought was interesting, with the wife of the general having to act like this is and then maybe she might have feelings for him too. Just some crazy ass shit. But I really love the color palette, because it's like every single shot in this film is a cinematic masterpiece. It looks like a painting, a mosaic painting. You've got a lot of blacks, whites, grays, the color scheme of the soldiers, and so then when you're in battle and blood comes out, like it's a huge contrast to the screen. Just visually pleasing. And if you can stick through that really boring first act, then you are rewarded with some great wuxia type battles with some interesting weapons. They have fucking like umbrella blades and shit that they swing around, you know. It's some cool shit based on the romance of the Three Kingdoms, those generals that are very famous. So give it a watch on Netflix. It's one that you can, if you can make it through that first act, it's pretty cool. If you like those types of foreign kind of epic kung fu type of films. All right, cool. That's Shadow.
Number 10.
My number 10 film is one that did well at the Oscars, and it was a film that, you know, we had considered a 2020 film because that's when we watched it. But no, technically it is
No, it is not.
I know.
Cheated.
I know. But look, the Oscars put it on there, so we have to put it on there in 2019.
Yeah.
It is 1917. This is a fantastic World War I film. So engaging. So much tension the whole way through because it's one consecutive shot. Well, not really. I mean, technically, they do stitch it together.
Well, there's also a 13-hour nap in the middle of the movie. So, like,
no.
he falls asleep for 12 hours.
Oh, well, I see what you're saying. In the time.
Yeah,
We're
I know. It was
talking about
really
the way
good.
It was filmed, all right?
Yes.
And then it's just beautiful, great special effects, great story, the camaraderie between these soldiers, the things that they had to go through, the chaos of command, just really fantastic overall. It's a little lower on my list because there are some elements. It's not based upon a real true story. There's some elements that it's like, you know, I see what you're doing just there to just kind of get some more drama out of there.
Yeah.
And would it really happen that way? Probably not. But it, you know, overall, it is a film, and it is fucking amazing. So I don't expect it to stick so close to true life events because I also want to be entertained.
You can fib a bit. It'll be
Yeah,
fun.
You can fib a bit,
great.
but you can tell when they embellish just a
Yeah,
little bit too
embellish.
much, and it's like, this is,
Few
you
times.
didn't need it. It's already was really, really good. What you don't need to turn it up anymore.
Yeah, but surprisingly, and so I was like, this is the best World War I film I've seen. No, actually not.
is it?
And surprisingly, there is another better World War I film that came out. I bet you don't know what it is. Last year, 2019. I know Alex knows what it is because he
Yes.
liked it just as much. All right, guys. So, any other comments to the 1917?
I think it was a super solid movie that I think they had very, very few weaknesses. So when we're talking about the weaknesses of that film, is they kind of turned up the tension a little. They did some things that you're like, you had an amazing, believable, wonderful story. The tension is there, and then you just kind of you turned it up a little bit too much, and some of the story things don't quite line up. But it was amazing. Still top 10.
Holes in it, but still.
It was still into my top 10 of last year.
Fantastic war film that you will enjoy. Go out and watch it immediately.
Yes.
Number 9.
My number 9 film is Uncut Gems. What? Adam Sandler up in my best films list of 2019? That's fucking crazy. But no, guys, he does a fucking great job here. And it shows you that Adam's got some acting chops. And obviously, I grew up with Adam, man. He's like one of my favorite comedians. I've got his
Back in the
albums. I
day.
got Billy Madison.
Happy
and
Gilmore.
Happy
There's so
Gilmore.
many amazing ones.
Yes,
yeah.
but there was a very rough patch there of
Jack and
Adam
Jill.
Sandler films like Jack and Jill. I was like,
Oh, well,
I
he
didn't
just
even
got
see
an
Jack and
extension,
Jill.
so
Fuck that.
You got lucky.
Right, and so then he did some Netflix films. Most were bad. Maybe one or two was good. But this one was a great decision. And this is a film that actually they've been asking him to do for 10 years. And they finally got him to do it.
Damn.
Yep, and his agent, because his agent was like, no, don't do
We
this.
don't do good movies anymore.
Right. Oh, a story about a greedy Jew? No, we're not doing this, But he finally did it, and I'm happy that he did it because it is fantastic. It's amazing. Kevin Durant, who's not an actor, but he does
Garnett.
pretty well. Garnett. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I'm
It's
combining
different player.
Yeah,
Yeah.
different player. He's just a fantastic actor, at least in this capacity. What team would he play for? The Celtics.
Celtics.
Yeah, the
Celtics.
Celtics. So, It's just about this sort of jewelry store hustler who has a gambling addiction and is constantly making deals and doing shady things,
borrowing money to pay off money he borrowed from someone else, and like there's this giant web of debts, and it is.
And his store is fancy, but it's not
in this film
fancy.
though.
Yeah,
We went to the bar at the movie theater to get beers, and the bartender's like, "I hope that you've taken like
I was
your
like,
heart
that's
medication
weird. Why would we
because
say
like
that?
you're
Yeah.
this is a
And I was
tense movie." I was like,
shut
"Yeah,
up."
shut up."
Shut up.
And the last 10 minutes of this movie,
like,
I'm
"Oh
sitting
my
there like this,
God."
going, "What the hell is gonna happen?"
Yeah,
It
no,
was
I
good.
felt it. It hurt. It hurt to watch, and I was like, wow, that bartender was not kidding. So we want to tell you guys, if you end up watching Uncut Gems, the fucking anxiety that you will go through, it's crazy. And when a film can make you feel like that, and you actually give a shit about the characters and the situations, it deserves to be on the list. Uncut Gems,
Yes.
go out and see it right now. And it's even got some cool music and so a cool intro and outro title sequence. I really like that, having to do with the gem that the story centers around. So, Uncut Gems.
Number 8.
Number 8. This is another personal pick of mine. It is Shazam. Now, there was so much potential to fuck up Shazam, and I thought that they didn't fuck it up. They did it fantastic because DCEU has been on this kick of everything needs to be dark and serious, and and then fucking
did something right twice.
kill Superman, right? But no, they realized that Shazam is this sort of, he's even more of a Boy Scout than Superman. He looks up to Superman, and he's just a kid. He's a
literally.
kid in a big man's body. And that sort of big storyline, Tom Hanks kind of thing, was just a joy to watch. And it took you back to when you were a kid and you had these superpowers. What would happen if you as a kid got superpowers? This is that film. It's a film I've always wanted to see, and unfortunately it treats its character better than the DC has treated Superman, and that really hurts my feelings.
Unfortunately.
But you know what? I liked it, and this film threw everything at you. It probably threw a little too much at you with the Marvel family that it tries to sort of introduce. It also has obviously he's a foster child, and he's introduced to a new family who tries to take care of him and tries to set him on a good path. And the supporting cast, that family, I thought did a fantastic job. What did you guys think of Shazam?
They finally did something lighthearted, and it worked.
Yep.
As opposed to like everything else. DC has Wonder Woman and Shazam so far that are pretty good films.
Yeah.
What is his name? Zachary Levi?
Levi,
yeah. He did a great job.
Yeah, he did great. I liked the movie. My only gripe with the movie is I don't think it was it was going to a place where I thought it was going to be like the one DC movie that was just going to like smash it, knock it out of the park, and it was really, really good. It's actually on my list, but it was just so close.
I know what these guys wanted. They wanted more combat. They wanted more action.
If you were a child who takes over the power of Superman, you're going to fly, you're going to punch people, you're going to use your goddamn lightning powers, and you didn't.
I know. He does, and we've argued this on the review, but whatever.
Watch it again. He doesn't do it.
Shazam, fantastic film. Love it. Go out and see it.
Number 7.
Number 7 is Joker. This is a film that I thought that the Oscars and Academy Awards would snub. But actually got the most nominations of any other film. Now, granted, it didn't win as much. I think it only won twice. Once for Best Actor, Joaquin Phoenix.
Totally deserved.
Puerto Rican.
That
yes,
is mainly why it's on my
deserved.
list. It's on my list, and it's mainly because of Joaquin Phoenix.
Hey, you know, the two best aspects of Joker won. And so I was like, oh, that's rightful. The music, that music really helps that haunting feeling of losing your mind and being disconnected from society and being, all these things that he goes through. And then, of course, Joaquin Phoenix's performance. Just fantastic. Loved it. Super engaging to watch. And, a mature storyline. A lot of people, oh, my God, this is going to lead to mass shootings and this is, the incels and all this other. But shut the fuck. Just shut up. It was a great fucking story. Now, I do think it uses a little bit of a crutch. And Alex has brought this up before, that
It's a remake.
It's a remake. It's essentially
King of
King-
Comedy.
the King of Comedy, you know,
Taxi
mixed with
Taxi?
a little bit of Taxi in there, but yeah, mainly
Which is
King of
why
Comedy.
Robert De Niro's in the movie. I mean, look, it's super good. My only gripe with the movie is it's not a DC movie. It doesn't earn its place in. He's not the Joker. This isn't really Gotham. But
Yes, he is, Alex. No.
no, I mean he's like
Yeah.
he's the foil
An
to
alternate version.
to Batman or the foil to Paul Blart. Like this is a guy that is just like he's not a DC villain. Like
He can't. I see what he's saying.
I know.
Yeah, but so like the movie was wonderful. It was an absolutely amazing story, like character-driven story. My only gripe with the film is like they're like it's a DC movie, it's the Joker. It's like you're wrong on both of those things. Which,
But see, I enjoy Man of Steel as sort of an alternate take on Superman, and so I obviously enjoy this Joker film as an alternate take on Joker. What do you think, Joe?
Like I said, I loved it mainly because of Joaquin Phoenix. He did an amazing job, and that is why I made my list. Otherwise, it pretty much was copying King of Comedy.
Okay, Joker, guys. We know you love it. We love it. Go out and see it if you haven't already. I'm pretty sure you've seen it by now, but a very
Yes.
shocking third act and a worthwhile watch and story.
Number 6.
Okay, next on the list, and this one's is pretty high because, goddamn, he's so fucking cool. Keanu Reeves in John Wick 3. I think it's called
Yes.
Parabellum, I
Yeah.
think is the thing. And, man, this is the third film, and you would think that they would start to lose a little bit of steam.
Yeah, I was gonna say these are like one of these films. Like, all right, it's gonna lose steam, but it gets better and better.
Better and
the
better.
fight scenes just go one up on each other. It's like,
Uh-huh.
how do you do it?
In that antique shop where they're breaking things and using things and knives and close combat.
But there's
and,
no way you're gonna top this. What are you gonna do
yeah,
it for?
I know, right? Well, I actually originally thought that this was going to be it.
Yeah.
Well, that was stupid.
That was
my
us.
decision. That was the only thing that kind of brought it down for me. But in the end, I realized, you know what? That shouldn't bring it down. It's like, whatever. You want to keep going, that's fine. So as long as they're at this
Keep this
high
pace.
quality, so I pushed it back up. And that's why it has risen so high on this list, because every time I think about it, I'm like, man, I really like that film. I'd watch it at any
And the
time.
soundtrack.
The soundtrack was good. I'd watch John Wick 3 as many times as I've watched John Wick 1, John Wick 2. I love it.
I think it's the weakest of the three, but it's still on my list and amazing. I think they lean really, really hard on like the bad guys all have this like insane amount of respect, but while simultaneously trying to
come
kill
on.
him.
It's in
So
this
there's
world. It's this world.
There's one or two scenes where it's just like I don't know if I buy it, but I'm
I
so
do.
engrossed in this movie and this
Yeah.
franchise that I'm gonna give it to you.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
watch yourself
I
because
respect you,
this next
But
movie.
I need the money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll see, and it culminates into an action scene that I was like, this is a little too standard. It's basically sub bosses come in with heavily armored, and then they've got a gunfight there, and then it just kind of ends, and I'm like, God damn it, I want a little bit more. So we'll have to wait for John Wick 4, and maybe that will be the conclusion. Here's the problem: I don't want it to go for too long. Because I don't want it to hit a bad film, especially when it's trying to conclude the whole damn thing,
Fast and
like
Furious?
fucking Star Wars.
Oh.
You know what I mean? Which is on a different list. Okay. Anyway, so that's it for John Wick 3. It's really fantastic. If you haven't seen it yet, go out and
Check
see
it out.
The director of the choreographer. Why can't I ever say that word? Choreographer of that film even gave a little bit of his magic and power to Birds of Prey.
Best parts of that whole
And
movie.
best parts of that whole movie. So go check out John Wick 3.
Yeah.
Number 5.
Next on my list is the culmination of some decades' work in the Marvel Universe. It is Avengers Endgame, the final film in the Infinity Gauntlet saga. And I just thought that, again, here's a situation that you could fuck up the ending to this, it not be satisfying. Rise of
Waste of
Skywalker.
time.
And a waste of time, but it wasn't. It gave everybody equal respect. Well, maybe there's two characters that kind of got shafted, but I thought that everybody got their pieces. It was incredibly entertaining. It was funny, just as the MCU films are, but yet serious and dark, and you could tell like the stakes are really fucking high, and then you have amazing moments with Tony Stark's character, Captain America's character. These are characters that we all love at this point, and Marvel has done such a damn good job. And you know what? Endgame, while it may not have been 100% fucking perfect, I thought was really damn fucking good.
Yeah, it had a great closure. It played my emotions.
Yeah.
The feels got me, man. It got me too much.
This was probably the hardest movie for me to rate
Yeah, it
because
was.
I love it. It's probably just in its genre, like in the comic book thing,
Yeah.
we've seen them like these bring all these characters together. We've seen everybody fuck it up, and so
Game of Thrones.
I was worried that they were gonna end on something that was poor, and then they tie in time travel, which is really hard, almost unbelievable to do.
Yeah.
But I still came out of the theater. I mean,
I didn't hate the time travel.
Yeah.
I didn't end up hating time travel.
I'll
I love
buy
the
it,
movie,
yeah.
and so it is on my list too. And I think that people are going to argue like, how good do you think Endgame is better than so and so on your list? It's like it's so hard to rate these movies
Yeah,
and to
that's what we
direct
were talking about
comparison.
last time.
But it's like best in slot,
Yeah.
especially for this last
For
year.
sure. The two characters I was talking about, it kind of does Hulk a little dirty. I mean, I thought Hulk would have a little bit more of a story here.
He brings
especially
everybody
when he got
back.
his ass kicked. No, he did, but
I
they
know.
go with a different style
For
that you
sure.
didn't think. More of the cerebral Hulk, the smart Hulk that's helping the scientists and Tony Stark and the time travel storyline. And then Thor. Some people thought Thor was done dirty. No, I thought he was done hilarious. I like the fact that we get Fat Thor, and I like that he does get
dude.
a new weapon and sort of helps to redeem himself, and he's badass again. So just great. I loved it, and yeah, it did kind of throw back to the Big Lebowski. So Avengers Endgame, just a fantastic conclusion to many, many years of Marvel films, and I gotta
so sad.
hats off to Marvel. Yeah, I honestly don't think they can ever reach this level.
No.
Well, it was so successful and so good in my opinion. I wanted it to end. And then they announced more movies. Like, no, you did it.
No,
You
you're
finished.
done.
Like you're just gonna go
Yeah.
down from here.
So that's it.
Number 4.
All right, what could be above Avengers Endgame? Well, this one is the other World War I film, They Shall Not Grow Old. Guys, you need to see this film. This one pays respect to the actual soldiers who fought in the film, and you see the actual soldiers who fought in the film. They restore footage. They restore audio. They hire...
Well, there was no audio.
Right,
So
right.
they had to create it. They hired lip readers from certain villages where these guys were from to get like that level of detail. Like this was one of my favorite movies of all last year. It was incredible. And there's a documentary of them making the documentary, which is every bit as good as that. Yeah.
The documentary
Loved
making
it.
the
Yeah,
documentary.
I loved it.
This was headed by a famous director.
Peter
wasn't it?
Jackson.
Yeah,
He did an
Peter
indie film
Jackson.
called Lord of the Rings. You ever-
And I don't know if you know this, but Peter Jackson loves this stuff. He collects a lot of memorabilia, and he's got like cannons in his
Well,
house.
that's where they got
and shit.
Yeah,
the sound.
sounds. A lot of
were
it was
his
A lot
actual
of it.
cannons.
Yeah. And they put it together in a satisfying story. It's kind of difficult because there were so many aspects to the war. There was the Navy. There was the Air Force. Well, fledgling Air Force.
Guys with a grenade dropping it out of
Right. But here they focus on the soldiers, and it's like, man, this was done so well. I want to see more. I know that they have hundreds of thousands of hours of footage. I think 1,000 hours of footage or something like that where they went through. And so if they could do that again as well as they did here, I would love to see it.
I mean, it was so incredible because what they did is in the 50s or 60s, I think it was the BBC interviewed all these people, and this footage was like being destroyed, and so his team they captured all this footage, they digitized it so they could last forever.
Yeah, preserve it.
And it was
Got that
amazing.
angle, too,
It was
that it's-
amazing.
It's
and
a
so
piece of history.
it
this
was
film.
it was the beginning of the year we saw this, and we got 1917 as like the end cap, and it was like a really good year to see both
World
of those
War
things.
I.
Yeah,
Right.
because we see so much World War II.
Fantastic. You need to go out and see it. I know this is probably one that none of you have seen, but you need to go and see it. Trust me, if you're into history, if you're into, honoring the people that came before and allowed us to have some of the freedoms that we have today, please go out and watch this film. It's fucking amazing.
Number 3.
Number 3, getting high on the list now. This one is Ford versus Ferrari. Christian Bale, of course. What, Joe?
I still haven't seen it.
Oh, you bastard!
I know you told me to
need
watch
see
it. I
You
just got
need to fucking
sidetracked.
see it, Joe.
Yeah.
We'll have you see it because
Yes,
it's
I'll watch
fantastic.
it
It's a
tonight.
great fucking story. You're like, wow, this. You could tell the passion's put into this film. It's a story about the guy that worked on the Ford program, who was a bit of a loose cannon and wasn't
Those are
given
the best
his
kind.
due. I know, right? It's just fascinating to watch. Christian Bale plays him excellently. You've got performances all throughout the film that everybody's strong. What is it? Matt Damon puts in a great performance as Shelby from Texas. I buy it. It's funny. Now, they embellish certain moments that didn't really happen in real life. I looked up what happened and what didn't happen. Surprisingly, it's very accurate. It's just they pump up a few of the things to make it a little bit more interesting to watch. But just basically, how Ford wanted to compete with Ferrari. They wanted to show that we could win in here, increase their sales. Their sales were slagging. And basically achieve the impossible. And, it turns Ferrari into the bad guys, these little snooty guys that thinks the Americans can't do jack shit. Of course, the Americans win, and they kick ass. But it's more than that. It's a story about, a man's passion for his work and his love. And
doing
even
the impossible.
And even Ford is a little bit of a villain in this film too. Corporate side of Ford, who doesn't like the driver and doesn't want him to drive the car, and he's not corporate enough, and he's not going to say the right things on the podium, and he's not going to do this. And they fucked him over. They really did fuck him over, Joe. This is a man who would have been a 3-time champion at some of the largest races, which is really fucking hard to do. They call it like a triple crown. But they fucked him over at the last minute. And you're going to have to watch the film to see what that is. But it's definitely worth watching. Have you seen it?
No.
Oh, what do you mean no? Why are you saying no?
I wanted to. There was a ton of things.
Ken Miles, I have to give him his due. Fearless British race car driver Ken Miles. And you know what? If you don't know who Ken Miles is, this is the perfect film for it. Please watch it. Carroll Shelby, Ken Miles, these larger-than-life, figures in the racing world. Of course, they have the owner of Ferrari in there, and then, of course, Henry Ford II. Just fantastic. And, I didn't think it would win anything like, Best Picture, and it didn't at the Oscars, but I felt it deserved
a lot of nominations, though.
And it did
Yeah,
get
Christian
a lot of
Bale got
nominations.
nominated.
But just a fantastic story. I fucking love cars. That probably is a little bit of bias in there. And it was just, it's those characters and that camaraderie that we've been talking about in all these other films. You see it between Ken Miles and Ken Miles and Carroll Shelby. So, guys, go out and see Ford vs. Ferrari if you haven't already. Trust me, it's worth it. Even if you're not into cars, it is a great fucking story. You'll love it. Promise.
Number 2.
Number 2 on my list is Marriage Story. This is a Netflix film, okay, that is number 2 on my best films of 2019. Netflix is really killing it recently. And this was nominated a lot in the Oscars. Mm-hmm. The Oscars aren't trying to, snub.
And won.
And they're not trying to snub Netflix films because, honestly, at this point, Netflix is putting out really high-quality content. Here and there, there's still some stinkers.
Yes.
A lot of bombs. But they're getting it right, and this is one that got it right. The performances of goddamn Adam Driver is such a good fucking actor. Scarlett Johansson, I think her performance in Jojo Rabbit was a little bit better than this, but she still puts in an amazing performance opposite of Adam Driver. And if you didn't buy these two, the film wouldn't have worked. But it's such a mature portrayal of a broken marriage, and it's a sad thing. And how you can love somebody but then hate somebody, and then what the fallout of that actually is, especially when you have a family and you had a family unit and that family unit starts to fall apart. It's sad. It's sad, and it gets you emotionally invested, and then you hate you're like, God, this bitch. Mm-hmm. Why won't she just "Ugh." But then it turns, what? He did what? What an asshole fucking shit.
Exactly.
But you see, and you start to see
Yes.
the both sides of the story, and often that's the way it is in these divorce stories.
Oh man, it was incredible. I absolutely loved it. I was waiting for like the right time to watch it, just based on like the type of movie it was, and I'm glad I did, because I just sat down, I watched the whole thing, and it's like, man, it's emotional, it's powerful. There are some scenes where you hate the characters, and then there's scenes where you just like you pity them and then you love them, and it was amazing. It's definitely one of the best movies I watched.
I basically had the same reactions you did. I was like, I loved it, but then at the same time, I was like, what is going on here?
You didn't know how it's gonna end. You're like, you
great.
want it to end a certain way, it's not gonna end the way you think it's gonna end, and it's like, that's life, that's fucking life. And just here's the thing. I'll say one thing about this film to get you to see it. It's like, it was so good that I did not want to recommend it to people I know that were divorced. I didn't want them to even know it existed.
Bring back
because
old
it
wounds.
will fucking trigger you. It will bring back old wounds, but maybe it's a part of a healing process. You need to see the film. It is emotional. Come on, you think I give a fuck about somebody's, watching somebody's divorce, right? I want actions, explosions, and Dragon Ball Z, right? But no, you need to see this, okay?
Yeah.
So even if it doesn't sound like your kind of film, go watch it.
It is.
Excellent. Okay? So, on to the number one film of the year. For me.
Number 1.
My number one film is a film that basically transported me to the area that the characters were in. I was completely lost in it. I was engaged in it the whole time. I fully believed, just like Marriage Story, that these characters were the people that we were seeing on screen. And it went to crazy areas. It went to areas that maybe I didn't want it to go to, but I was along for the ride the whole time. And it was done in black and white, and it wasn't even in widescreen. It was, that annoys some people, and that film is The Lighthouse. I fucking love The Lighthouse. I think William Dafoe put in one of his best performances ever. I like the idea of a descent into madness. I like some of the, Cthulhu-ish and Lovecraftian a little bit ideas that they injected into this film. And just exploring the psyche of two men living together in such close proximity, and what can happen when shit goes wrong and shit gets crazy.
I love this movie. I'm so glad that Willem Dafoe actually won the Independent Spirit Award, I think, for Best Supporting Actor. He kind of got snubbed at the Oscars, in my opinion, because his performance was insane in this film.
I just realized that. I thought, man, there's not really many snubs at the Oscars, but
That was
one.
The movie was incredible. I agree with you that they kind of transported you there. It was a descent into madness done properly, and we see a lot of descent into madness movies that just don't do it right.
Yeah.
This one did it. There is a slow descent that doesn't jump all over the place and do nutty things, and you buy that these two have cabin fever, and then weird stuff starts to happen, and it's in their minds, and it was just wonderful. I loved it.
This is also on my list, and it deserves a second watch. You have to watch it multiple times.
I would love to. Yes.
Yeah.
I haven't done it yet, but I want to watch it again.
I did, and that's why it made my list. Because at first, I was like, what the fuck was that? I watched it again. I was like, made my list.
Yeah, all right, Joe. And yes, it's those films that kind of make you. It's one of those films that at the end you think about it.
Yeah.
And it kind of sticks with you. And it may not be like, oh, there's a lot of unanswered questions or this or that. It's more like, man, that's crazy, the way they filmed that and how that happened, and what were they trying to say here, and okay, interesting. So it's just a fantastic film. And for me, it's like Marriage Story, where it's like you're so engaged in the story, you're so engaged with the characters, but it was a little more interesting to me because it was a descent into madness, and it had its style, and it had its sort of atmosphere, and in a different way. And so I kind of like that a little more than a divorce thing. I like this. Madness is a little more my thing. So that's why it is my number one film of the year. So that was the top 15 films of 2019. But now, as an extra, these guys are pretty much, we've watched, I think officially we watched 50 films in 2019 that 50 reviews edited. Our opinions are there. We've probably watched like 80 films, maybe even 100 films. So that is the culmination of all that. Now let's hear from Alex and OtherJoe, their list. Who wants to go?
Okay, I will go first. So our lists are pretty similar. There's a couple things that are on mine that aren't on yours.
And
so
those are the ones that we can talk about.
Yeah,
I'm
so
fascinated.
15, I've got Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. 14, Won't You Be My Neighbor? It's another. It was a documentary. It was a Mr. Rogers documentary. It was one that, like, as a child of PBS, watching that thing was one of the most emotional things I did all last year. It brought back so many memories of watching PBS, sitting next to my grandma.
You asked me to go with you, and I was like, we just never found time to do it. I still haven't seen it.
We watch a ton of these movies separate, which is something that people like, especially these ones at the end of the year. But I absolutely love that film. Please go see it. Support that. After Won't You Be a Neighbor, I've got Shazam. Really like the film. Borderline love the film. I think it was just a tiny bit of tweaking. It could have been absolutely fantastic for me. Then Joker.
Well, what number are we at?
Shazam is 13. Joker is 12. Okay. Absolutely love the film. There's some big problems that I have with it. I feel that they did one of my favorite characters super dirty, where you feel like it could be an Elseworld, and I feel like they took a character that I loved and they turned him into something that he was so far out of character that they slapped it on for like a marketing thing. They're like, oh, go see it. It's a DC movie. It's like, there in no way is this a DC movie. Then Irishman. I think Irishman was really, really really good. It was about an hour too damn long.
Yeah, but the Netflix Irishman. It was nominated a ton at the Oscars, but it didn't win.
It didn't. The problem is, like, the highs of the Irishman.
Also got snubbed, I guess. But in my opinion, it wasn't a snub.
I agree with you. I think that the highs of Irishman are similar to the highs of all of the other Scorsese movies.
Yeah.
The problem is there's an extra hour in there, so you go off this high, and then you're not bored, but you're almost bored. And then there's another amazing scene, and the technology they used to de-age and age, Joe Pesci, and like the whole story was wonderful. But
it's just too long.
It's just too long. And then number 10, I've got 1917. Love the film. Love the film. Then I got John Wick 3. I've watched it over and over and over again, and there's some parts that are harder to watch, but it's still absolutely amazing. A movie that you didn't see with us, we saw Rocket Man, the story of Elton John. If you like Elton John's music, it's a wonderful story.
What if you don't like Elton John's music?
It's still definitely worth seeing as like a story of his character, because it's not just a it is a musical, but it's an interesting
I like
story.
his big hits, but I don't really listen to his other music.
You would enjoy it. Stop. He sings it all the time.
Saturday.
And then after number 7 is Uncut Gems. Absolutely loved it. Number 6 is Lighthouse. Number 5, Marriage Story. Number 4, Parasite. Number 3, Avengers. Number 2 is They Shall Not Grow Old. It was a movie. It almost doesn't count as a movie because it's a short documentary. It's actually 2 kind of smashed together. But my favorite movie of all last year was Jojo Rabbit. I absolutely love Jojo Rabbit.
Oh my God! I can't believe I forgot Jojo Rabbit on my list.
I forgot They Should Not Grow Old.
Oh, no.
But, I mean, Taika Waititi took a subject matter that is difficult to discuss.
Yes.
He had the right amount of satire. It was moving. It was funny.
It's another dark
Sam
comedy,
Rockwell is one of my favorite. Like, his characters are always amazing, and this one is like exactly the same way.
Yeah.
Scarlett Johansson was incredible. The child actors were believable and amazing.
If Parasite didn't win the Best Picture of the Year, was Jojo Rabbit nominated?
It was, yeah.
Okay, I would have wanted Jojo Rabbit to win.
He won for Best Adapted Screenplay, which was great. I'm glad he walked away with an Oscar for this film. But it may be some recency bias because it's the one I saw, but I absolutely love that movie, and I recommend it to everybody.
I fucking loved it. It is great. And it is a mixture. Joe, have you seen it?
Yes.
Okay.
I loved it.
What do you think?
Oh, it's on my
Okay.
You go to your
later.
list.
Okay, so that was his list. Let's go to OtherJoe's list.
Number 15, I have Shazam.
Shazam.
It was a good turning point for DC.
Yep.
All right. Hopefully they continue this. We'll see. 14, Joker. It made my list only because, like I said, great acting, and I love the music. But
Joaquin.
story, it's been told. 13, 1917. I love the one shot. It made me feel like I was part of the team.
Yeah.
The tension.
I love it.
Just running around here.
Yeah, I was like, oh, if only they would have shot Lord of the Rings like that.
Oh.
That would have been nice.
I don't know.
Well, you're already kind of my Hobbit.
Yeah. Number 12 is Lighthouse. I watched it again, and it made my list. I was like, this is
Good.
fucking crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's
yeah.
good.
Number 11, Dr. Sleep.
That was a great movie last year.
Yeah, that was my number 16.
Yeah, was it?
Yeah.
I really liked it, but I wished it would have done a little bit more at the end.
Oh, it was one of those ones that had so much
Yes,
potential, and if there
yes.
was 5 more minutes at the end of the
It's-
climax of like everything
Yeah.
interacting that you wanted to, that movie could have been a 10 out of 10.
It is a sequel done different than the original that does not fail.
Yeah.
You know, and it's so it's a case where those can be so disappointing, but this
Yeah.
one wasn't.
Number 10 is a Jordan Peele movie, Us.
Yeah.
I liked it. A little message for you guys there.
Message.
Number 9, sorry, is Toy Story.
Oh, it's
That was a
This
good one.
Yeah.
Another closure one that I liked. It was sad. It was emotional. It was like,
yeah.
man, I didn't want to see this go down like that. I don't know if you've
there
seen
ain't
it
gonna
or
be
not.
no Toy Story 5, I don't think.
Maybe we'll see.
No, I don't think so.
And number 8, The Avengers.
Mhm.
Endgame was great. I loved it. We already talked about it. 7 was John Wick 3. More John Wick, please.
Yeah.
It's just,
At that level, yes.
well, it's got to be a couple years because he's hurting right now.
What?
After the movie, John Wick 3, what happened?
Oh, right,
Oh,
right,
yeah.
right. Okay.
Number 6, Uncut Gems.
Mhm.
It's a little bit higher in my list.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed this one. I was like, oh my God, Adam Sandler can do good movies.
Yes.
Oh, come on. He's done good movies in the past, Joe.
10, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
All right.
Now
There's
it's
a-
just garbage. It's
You're
like,
right,
please,
you're right.
Adam Sandler, do stuff like this.
Yeah.
And,
And goddamn, that girl was so fucking hot.
oh, yes.
His girlfriend in it, and she's a good actress, and she came out of nowhere. This
Everyone,
is her first
yeah, everyone
film.
was doing
She came
great.
out of nowhere. Adam Sandler's wife is actually the singer for Frozen.
Frozen, yeah. I noticed.
Well, yeah, she's
One of the singers
she's
in Frozen.
Well, there she is the one, but she also was in Wicked and all those other. She's
Yeah,
super
yeah.
famous.
I didn't know.
Never seen that.
You never saw Wicked?
No.
or whatever.
Number 5, Parasite.
Mm.
This is another one that had a lot of tension, a lot like some dark comedy.
Yeah.
It was funny. I was like, all right, how are they gonna get themselves out of this? And just builds
Oh,
up,
yeah,
and builds
yeah.
up, and then the payoff, like what shit you didn't see coming.
Yeah.
Number 4, Once Upon a Time. I really like this one.
Wow, that's
I-
way
yeah.
higher
Oh,
than
that's
the-
a
It
lot higher
is.
than I thought. Cool.
I love the chemistry between Leo and Brad
Yeah.
Pitt.
Yeah.
So, number 3, Rocket Man.
Yeah.
Check it out.
Yeah, okay.
Let's go on
With it that
Saturday.
high on both of y'all's lists, I'm going to
Saturday.
watch it.
There was some. This was a
Saturday.
good year
I'll
because
watch
we got Yesterday, which was not any. It's not on my top 15, but Yesterday
Did
was
you-
pretty good.
Did you notice in the Oscars, Elton John was presenting, and when he was presenting one of the lists, and his Rocket Man was one of the ones he was presenting. I was like, he's not going to win.
It's not,
They
but-
can't. He can't announce his own win. You
Well,
know
he
what
won.
I mean?
They did win. He and Bernie
No, but
won
he
something.
didn't win
Not
for
one
the
of-
one that. Okay, anyway.
Yeah, if you want to see a good musical, Rocket Man.
Rocket
not
Man.
Another piece of shit. Got those.
Right. Cats.
Number 2,
I'm gonna be on another list.
Marriage Story. This was a small Netflix.
Oh, we
thing.
actually hit on one exact point too.
Yeah, and it's like super small. It's just 2 people just sitting in
Yeah.
the room and just talking, and they had my attention throughout the entire time.
Fuck.
And I was along through the journey.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Great acting by those 2. Number 1, Jojo Rabbit.
So y'all
Scar-
hit.
yeah, number
bet
1 and
number
2,
one.
Scarlett
Okay.
Johansson. She's amazing. And
You
here she
know-
knocked it out of the park.
I fucked my list up in 2019 because I didn't even put Jojo Rabbit.
Well, I forgot they should go old. So I don't
Right.
know.
So we'll do a little better job next year. But if I had to drop one, I would probably drop maybe Stuber or Broly and swap it in for Jojo Rabbit. Because while I like those films, Jojo Rabbit was definitely better. I liked Jojo Rabbit better.
Yeah,
but
Scarlett
I like
Johansson
the
killed it on that one too. She
Yeah,
played, yeah, like
Yeah, she did. I think she should have won Best Supporting Actress.
Oh,
or no, Best Actress.
Best
she
Actress
was
for
she
that,
was
yeah.
nominated for Best Actress.
You,
Though I
you
didn't
cannot like. So I saw Judy.
I
Judy
did
was
not see
really
Judy.
good,
I didn't see
and
it.
Renee Zellweger did incredible. Like no one did better than her this year.
Okay.
No one
okay.
did.
Well, I didn't see that film, so maybe
I didn't
I
see
will
Yeah.
defer to you. Guys, I hope you enjoyed it. I really love the fact that our lists are so different. And, I mean, they were the same, but just ranked
Different,
like-
differently.
yeah.
And
They're
it's
in
like,
there somewhere.
what does he like? What does he like better? So why don't you guys put your list down below? Go top 10, maybe top 15. And thank you again to our Patreons and our YouTube join buttons, or anybody who just subscribes and watches the show. We really appreciate you. Thank you so much. Consider clicking some of those links down below to support our content if you want to see more like this. And we've got one more more lists coming up. The
God.
worst films of 2019. And I got some really bad ones.
Stinkers.
Some stinkers. So stay tuned for that. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you on the next Angry Joe Show. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.